Welcome to Brand Champions. Today, you've just got me, and we're going to be doing a little episode about always on brands.
3, 2, 1, go!
Now, when I say always on, what I mean is you should be in market with a campaign or creative or messaging 24/7 that is not tied to some sort of seasonal campaign. Seasonal campaigns are great. You think about a back to school campaign, a holiday campaign, a summer campaign. We love those. They're great. But if I had to rank in importance, whether I should have a seasonal campaign or an always on campaign, I would take always on every day. So let me just explain why. Seasonal campaigns are wonderful. They capture a consumer's heart and mind at a particular point when they're thinking about something, like the holidays. The issue is when you go to market, oftentimes when you get feedback about what's working and what's not, the campaign is basically done. You have run out of time, your season is coming to a close, and you're thinking about the next campaign. So when it comes to learnings, in terms of what messaging resonated, what piece of creative or talent resonated, you don't have time to make the update. Let's flip that. If you have a campaign that's in market 24/7, 365, and you are messaging things like RTBs, and say you've got 15 RTBs about your product. If you're not tied to a seasonal campaign, now you can get in market and you can literally test over and over again what's working and make iterations. It's a huge difference, and it enables you to really understand what's working and what's not, and to refine your messaging and your creative approach over and over again in order to continue to beat whatever your goal is for the campaign. Cost per acquisition, you want to lower it, cost per enrollment. Now, usually when we think about always on budgets, we're usually thinking about search, or we're thinking about retargeting, where you've got dollars set aside every single month, and there's a bucket of hours that basically you're working against to make sure that you're always in market with creative that is capturing that intent. That is true. But what's happened is Meta's kind of changed the game on us. Now, I will argue that for most brands, Meta is probably the number 2 best converting platform, channel, publisher, whatever you want to call them, outside of search. And I think this is probably true across most of our clients and most of the clients and brands out there. It's unique to Meta. I think this idea that they are in the mode to shop. They're in the mode to basically be open to new brands and new ideas that allow people to, let's say, express who they are. It meets the needs that they're looking for. And it all revolves around this idea that Meta has intent signals that only, I think, rival search in terms of what am I interested in today. So if Meta is the number 2 channel, they are capturing the hearts and minds. We should be in market 24/7. We should be optimizing this campaign every single day to try to beat whatever sort of KPI number we achieved last quarter. And that's the way we approach it. And we try to tell brands we need to set aside an always on budget just for an always on approach inside of Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and now even TikTok and even YouTube as well. The other interesting trend that's been almost imposed upon all brands is Meta's come back and said, hey, look, you can't just have one wave of creative and just do small tweaks and rerun it. That's not going to work. And there's a reason for this. If you think about Meta, they are so interested and worried about the consumer experience first and foremost, that they're not going to allow you to run the same ads over and over again to their highest value audiences. It's going to degrade the customer experience. TV is a whole nother story. You can run the same ad and beat somebody over the head over and over again with a 15 frequency inside of 60 minutes, and nobody says a thing. Now, as a consumer, you just tune it out. How many times have we seen an ad from, let's say, a pharma company, and it's the same thing? Yes, you understand the jingle. You can sing it in your sleep. You start to ignore it, and you don't take action. Whereas Meta's figured out, no, I want brands, I want advertisers to have, for our consumers, an entertaining experience. Now, what they're telling us is we want to see creative every 4 to 8 weeks. Some brands are every week or two. I don't think that's realistic for all brands. I think what you have to do is figure out what's the right cadence for you, whether that's every 8 weeks, every 12 weeks, and you're gonna end up releasing 3 to 4 brand new big creative swings that go into market. And if you do this, let's say you've got a product, whether it's a health insurance product or you have a car that you're going to be marketing, there is plenty for you to talk about over and over and over again and how you might introduce that product to a consumer. And you're going to have to figure out every 8 to 12 weeks, what are the 3 to 4 big creative swings we want to put in there? And when I say big creative swings, I mean the look and feel is different. Yes, it aligns back to the brand standards, but it looks different. It talks different. It has different RTBs that you're putting out there, different ways to talk about those RTBs, different talent. That is a big creative swing in Meta's eye. What they'll do is the algorithm has been programmed to prioritize what it thinks looks different and new from what came before. So it's literally looking at what, if you try to fake it and put in an ad that just has a slight tweak, they will not prioritize that ad to their most valuable audience. They just won't do it. And you'll see it in the numbers. You'll see it in terms of your conversion metrics and performance metrics. They'll all start to go down. That very same ad that worked when you released it 12 weeks ago no longer works. Now you'll think, oh, it's creative fatigue. But I would argue what Meta's doing is suppressing it. And they're not showing it to the most valuable audience. They know who the most valuable audience is. What they want is brand new creative. The brands want to learn every time they want to enter a market, and Meta wants new creative every time you enter into the market. So if you put those two together, you've got a really powerful 1-2 punch to say, okay, we're no longer going to do a seasonal campaign because our goal as a brand is to learn and optimize every time. And Meta's saying, I want brand new creative. So you can figure out a way now to enter into market and continually test and optimize. And here's what it does. It enables you to lower your, let's say, cost per acquisition or increase whatever KPI you're looking at over time. And if you do this, you will ultimately end up with, I think, the marketer's dream, which is a campaign and a set of learnings that you can build on over and over again and show the C-suite, show your boss, whatever it is, that you are making substantial strides towards moving what you think is the benchmark of whatever your cost per acquisition is lower, lower, and lower. And I think that is the power of an always-on brand. It is incredibly important to understand that always on doesn't mean less creative, doesn't mean that you can't have the same sort of impact to your consumer. It just means that you have the ability now to completely build upon and leverage what came before to make something better and better and better. And I think it in many ways, it takes brand marketers and it makes them, let's say, direct response marketers. And I think that's what's really cool about this is that no longer is it just about a brand campaign. You can actually learn over and over again and see the goalpost move with Meta. Now, if you spend a decent amount, and I'm not talking about a lot of money, Meta will work with you every single week to improve your creative. So for our brands, we get on the phone with different reps in different verticals and try to understand where was our creative, where did it go wrong in the last wave of creative we put out? What did it do right? What are the competitors doing on Meta? And they will aggregate those and tell you. And then what are the changes? I think this is really important. What are the changes in the algorithm? What changed and what are you prioritizing this quarter versus last quarter? And that helps us when we're putting together briefs, create creative that's not only going to resonate with our audience, but it's going to align to the goals and needs of the algorithm and the platform itself. And this all goes back to the Meta customer experience. What are they looking for to make sure that their consumers, right, their users keep coming back? You know, daily active users is so important to Meta. Ultimately, they want people to continue to open this app all day long. And that means that the experience has to be new and fresh every single time. And you as an advertiser, you are part of that experience. So you have to make sure, yes, you're entertaining, but also you're showing them something new as often as possible. The other thing this has really necessitated is there's been a whole industry that has grown up over the last 2 years called creative analytics. For years, our media teams or an external agency that we work with that just does media for one of our clients and we do creative, you get back the reports, and the reports are good, but they don't really dive into detail about what's working with the creative. You might get click-through rate, which is great. Maybe if you're lucky, you'll get video completion rate. But platforms like Motion or Allison.ai and others have risen up and provided a level of creative analytics we have not seen before. Give you an example. Think about like the hook rate. In the first few seconds, did somebody stay and continue to watch more of the video? So what happened in that first 2 to 3 seconds? Was it somebody on screen saying, I'm going to show you the number one way I cleared up my acne? Is it somebody saying, I have found the best travel credit card out there? I'm going to tell you why. Or travel hack. This is what's called a hook. Now, a lot of the ads that we would put out have, I think, great hooks, but they didn't perform well. And so traditionally, this ad would be discarded within the first few days of the campaign. Now I can say, oh, wait a minute. That ad that we discarded and put no more money towards had the highest hook rate, right, of any other ad. What can we learn from that? Yes, that ad might not run anymore, but that hook and the way we constructed it was so critical and so impactful that we can take that learning now and we can push it towards the next set of creative. So we can take what we learned from the rest of the ad or an ad that performed really well, lowered cost per acquisition, take the rest of that ad, combine it with this amazing hook, but the ad didn't really perform well, and now we have supercharged our next set of creative. So creative analytics like hook rate, hold rate, video completion rate, these are things we never had before. And ultimately, now that we've got these in our hands, all that work that we put in to create new creative swings inside of Meta that might get discarded now become incredible tools to learn from. And we can go out there and comb through mountains of data with these platforms to understand, was it a person, like was it a particular talent that resonated? Was it a color or a shirt color that they were wearing? Was it that they were walking versus sitting? Was it the hook rate? Was it the intro message? Was it the headline? Was it the subhead? All of these things combined allow us to kind of get a really good idea of what's working across a, let's say, 15-second ad and really dissect it and figure out how do we leverage these things that worked in one ad but maybe didn't work in another and build a best of breed ad. So over the course of, let's say, a year, we have a systematic way of understanding all the things that work for this particular product and how we can leverage those into the next wave of creative over and over and over again. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. We've all heard of dynamic creative optimization. It's worked fairly well, but Meta has been a place where they really haven't allowed DCO, dynamic creative optimization, to play. But there are new platforms like Marpipe, which we use. So when we go out and shoot, let's say, a production assets and video, and we might shoot once or twice a year for a campaign, we're collecting a ton of assets. Those assets to create are expensive. Marpipe has allowed us to do is take a great 15-second ad and using AI and using technology, we can change the headline, we can change the subhead, the CTA, the VO, the imagery inside of it, and create 40 to 60 different variations. This kind of speeds up the process of creative production when it comes to figuring out what's working and what's not. So that's kind of the secret tool that sits underneath how we go to market and test different variations. Marpipe just gives us this incredible ability to understand, are there small tweaks or certain things in the messaging that we need to change that are going to resonate better with certain audiences? So that might serve as the foundation, right? Those learnings to then create the next creative brief where we go out and shoot and take different assets or focus in on different messaging. I think that's really powerful. The other thing that we do, if we shoot actors, if they don't say a line while you're on set and you haven't captured, let's say, a certain messaging or an RTB, we can use AI to go ahead and recreate their voice and their likeness, saying a whole new set of messaging that we learned works really well. But we just didn't know this at the time, but we were shooting. So we use an AI platform to basically go in and recreate that. And that basically has freed us so much to say, okay, a shoot doesn't necessarily have to capture every single messaging point we want to make. We know we're not going to be able to do that. But with AI, we can now go back and say, oh, we learned this a month later. This RTB worked. We're going to use this RTB. We're going to recreate this RTB using our existing footage and then go back into market. That's been a game changer for us in terms of reintroducing creative, but doing it in a way based on learnings rather than trying to reshoot something 3 months later, which we know is going to blow the budget out of the water. It's not feasible. Well, today with AI, we have so much more freedom to be able to create new footage based on existing footage that we never had before, which has been a game changer. So I hope this was informative. I hope that when you approach campaigns, you're no longer thinking we can only do an always campaign with retargeting or search. No, it's just not the case anymore. You should be doing an always on campaign for every major product that you're repping out in the marketplace, particularly when it comes to Meta, YouTube, or TikTok. I think this is critical, and I think you're going to see results from what you get over the course of, let's say, 12 months, dramatically beat out any sort of seasonal campaign. I just think these learnings over time are invaluable, and they've really allowed us to create what we'll call best of breed ads for every client and product out there. The whole team is now galvanized to continually beat what's come before. And it's really created an atmosphere of accomplishment and success. Whereas I think with seasonal campaigns, a lot of times creatives and agencies were proud of the work, even though it didn't perform well. And I think that's just been something that we've been dying to get away from, which is like, yeah, the work looked great, but man, I wish we had these learnings ahead of time. Now you do. Now you've got these learnings and this ability to go back into market over and over again. And look, you can take these learnings and then roll it into a seasonal campaign. Seasonal campaigns are a luxury, but the always on brand is a necessity. And I think that's true now more than ever, especially with how important Meta has become and how they've been imposing their need of new and different content every single way that you go out. I think this puts the power back in our hands and enables us to be performance marketers, even though we might not be doing performance marketing. And I think that's a game changer. Thank you so much. That was this version of Solo Brand Champions. See you next time.
Brand Champions is a QUESTUS production. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and review wherever you tune in. You can submit mailbag questions to brandchampions@questus.com.